This is Backstage with Geoffrey Morrissey. I am your host, Geoffrey Morrissey, and we are joined by Brian Fallon. Before his show at the Royale in Boston, you've been spending the better part of the last year touring your debut album, Painkillers. It's been sort of a wild and crazy schedule, so we appreciate you making the time for us today. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So you are the fourth sort of Jersey act that I've had the chance to interview over my 3 years, and I ask this to everyone because I don't know if it's the wah-wah or sort of whatever is in the area, but Jersey music has this distinct sound that I just sort of can't put my finger on. What about Jersey gives rock music that particular edge or specific sort of ring to it?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what bands you're speaking of, so I'm not sure. But I have no idea. Like regional things, I don't really know too much about. I think people just do what they grew up on and what they feel connected with. I mean, no matter where you're from, I tend not to look at things as like separate by region,
Mm-hmm.
So it's, for me, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what would make anything sound like it was from New Jersey or not New Jersey.
Well, true. Maybe it's like it could totally be a me thing, but sort of I guess another thing in terms of the Jersey acts, you all get to be compared, I guess, to one of the people who came before, whether it be Bon Jovi or in your case, you were sort of called the heir apparent to Springsteen earlier in your career, which I can't even imagine what that pressure must feel like so how were you able to sort of like overcome that?
You just don't accept it. You just say, okay, that's absurd. Like, because you can't compare yourself to somebody that, that's like comparing yourself to Prince.
Yeah.
You just don't, somebody that big, you don't, if you start to believe that, it's that would be foolish, I think, of anyone to compare themselves to someone that great. You just ignore it and you kind of go, all right, well, yeah, thanks, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. Moving on.
Moving on is the best answer in the world. Yes.
Exactly. Take the compliment and then just don't
go.
Think about it too much. But you worked with Butch Walker on this album, Painkillers, and from the moment I heard that, it just sort of sounded like a match made in heaven. How is it working with him different than working with some other producers that you've worked with in the past?
Well, Butch and I did everything very quickly. Like, we just sort of didn't really think about stuff too much and kind of did what we felt was natural right off the bat. And, Butch is one of those people that's very good on his feet, and he just kind of does things quickly but efficiently, very efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of it was like an easy vibe. Like, we just kind of would do whatever we thought was fun.
And are you used to sort of moving quickly when making an album? Is that something you'd want to do again, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really dawdle too much when making records because usually we have everything ready and all the songs are ready, and then we'll go in and make the record. But it's not something that we spend time like writing or figuring out stuff in the studio because they can kind of waste a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So you and I have something in common. We are both only children, mm-hmm. which I feel like comes with both its perks and minuses. What would you say was sort of like the biggest perk and minus of being an only child?
Well, you get a lot of attention.
True.
That's for sure. But then at the same time you get you have no one to sort of like learn from or you don't have like an older brother or sister to kind of help you do this thing called life. So I don't know, it's lonely at times.
No, true. But I heard that you were sort of dreading a solo project to some extent, that you had to convince yourself to make this record. How did you convince yourself to make it, and why did you dread it?
Oh, well, I don't know if I dreaded it. I think I was just sort of found myself in the position where there wasn't anything else to do at the time, where I just
mm-hmm.
said, like, well, I'm either I'm not, my band's not working right now, so I was like, well, I can either, go do something else, or I can kind of start to look at the music that I grew up on and the things that I wanted to do that were left undone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the main catalyst for doing it, was there was a desire to do music that was different than what I'd previously done and sort of explore. That really exploring was kind of it. So I went in and looked and, said, all right, well, I grew up on a lot of these like folk music and like singer-songwriter music, and I had a great interest in exploring that, what I had to say. So, and I still am,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a whole new world. It's like, when you discover something for the first time, it's pretty, gives you a lot of options.
And what would you say might be like the biggest thing that you learned in that exploration?
Well, I mean, learning how to write simply and efficiently, I think, is something that I'm currently learning. I wouldn't even say that I've learned it, but when you're by yourself, you don't have a band to play, off of, and you're just sort of writing the songs, and then I think that they have to stand up on their own in your room with the piano or the guitar, and then you have to kind of like make sure that it's an interesting thing, because you don't have other people sort of to bounce ideas, much like being an only child,
No.
But you definitely don't. With a band, it's a lot easier, because you can. Sometimes the other person will say, "Oh, well, what about this?" Or there's a lot of suggestions going on, and a lot of like collaborative thought, which I think is helpful in many aspects.
Totally. And so now I understand sort of writing about your faith was a little bit off the table when you were with a band. Do you think that would be something you'd be open to exploring in your solo work?
Well, maybe. I mean, the thing is I've always kind of one of those people that doesn't, I have a pretty normal sense of, I guess religion, you would say. Mm-hmm. But how do you? I'm kind of at a point where I go well, how do you even define that? Especially as I get older, I find the older I get, the less I know, mm-hmm. kind of, and I'm still kind of looking around at it. So the tough part for me would be to have a definitive to say in a song, I think that songs sort of need a definitive, and they need a point that you are making some sort of statement, and it's very difficult for me to wrap my head around that, because I feel like I don't know everything there is to know. One thing I would do, though, is I've known artists have done old, when I was growing up, well, I was listening to folk music, but also very old church hymns, mm-hmm. The really old ones. And I've heard Tom Waits do songs like that, Johnny Cash do songs like that. I would definitely do that. I just think it's beautiful music, mm-hmm. And they remind me of my childhood, and my mom, and it's that's got a little more of a connection. But to write my own, it would be very difficult. It seems daunting right now, even to think about, because how do you define that kind of thing? And and I don't have the most traditional sense of a viewpoint, I don't really. A lot of people, the minute you start talking about anything to do with religion, they talk about what you disagree with. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the statement, and I don't even know, how do you do that? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you talk about what you do agree about? And so that's sort of, the struggle, I think, of it is, how would you define how can you define something that you think about something so vast, as the concept of God and man and woman and the earth, and it's very, very vast, and I don't know if my brain can wrap around that, especially not enough to get it in a 3-minute song,
Well, that's a beautiful self-awareness to have, though, because I feel like a lot of people wouldn't have that, and then just sort of just get increasingly frustrated with the writing process.
You could. I think you have to know your limits, and I know that my limits are vast. So that's one thing that is true as I get older. But to tell you the truth, with songwriting and everything else, I'm trying to learn right now everything I can do, and especially with religion and things like that. I just try to gather information, and really at the end of the day, all you can do is make your own opinion. Mm-hmm. You can't. I don't know if anybody will know for sure about anything, until you're dead.
Exactly. Then you'll get the answer.
Terribly morbid, but
yeah, well,
it's true.
No, exactly. And then, so sort of speaking of writing, I heard that your favorite season to write in is the fall.
Oh, I love it.
And why is that? And are you writing right now?
Yeah, I am. Because it's just I don't know, the fall is everything. I don't like the heat.
Oh, same.
I really hate the heat. Yeah.
Ugh.
And it feels like somebody just took the temperature and just turned on the fan in the fall, and everything sort of gets warmer, but that comfortable warm, and the temperature outside goes down. Today, today's a great day, and yesterday it was hot, and then you come here and you get to the Northeast, and it's just very, very nice, and then the leaves change and everything change. You could feel a sense of changing. I feel like that's why it's more sort of appropriate to write for me in that time, because you can feel the change and you can see the change happening. It's very clear and apparent that it's happening. So you sort of align yourself with the season, and it tends to work. I don't know.
No, exactly. Well, it was funny because I was writing with an outlet, and we were like, "Oh, we'll do a playlist called Songs of Fall," and then we started thinking like, "Well, what does make a song fall?" Because it has a specific feel to it, but you just can't say you can name a song and be like, "Yes, this is a fall song." Yeah. You can't describe exactly what.
It's a melancholy as well.
True.
And I'm a melancholy guy. Pretty melancholy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty. I don't know, not down, but I'm not a down person. Yep. But just a little. I like sad songs, I don't know. I just like sad songs. I think that they're nice.
No, totally. Have you heard Julian Baker yet?
Okay,
she's incredible. Most every show she wears a shirt called "Sad Songs Make Me Feel Better."
That's awesome.
Yes, and she is absolutely insane.
I like Nico Case is one of my favorites.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I really like her a lot.
No, she's great. And that whole Cass Lang Veers thing is cool.
That's
too.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh,
that was really cool.
I miss them at Newport Folk, and that's been one of my biggest sort of regrets.
Oh man, I would definitely go check that out. Those are the kind of people that I would be interested in learning from. Mm-hmm. Jenny Lewis too. That's another one.
Oh, she's
I think
insane.
that they're great.
Yeah, I saw
her.
That whole Rabbit Fur Coat tour that she did, I went to a couple weeks ago, and that was so good.
That's cool.
And it was very folky, and she did the whole album from start to finish.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Ben Gibbard opened for her the other night. Yeah. She's been having these different superstars open for her. I forget.
That's awesome.
She had Connor Oberst the first night.
I love him.
In Minneapolis. Yeah, it was
that's so cool.
Wow. Huh. I don't know if it's still going, but if it is, definitely trying to check it out. But speaking of Newport, you were there this year. This was my first year at Newport, and sort of
my second.
Your second.
Second in a row.
Second in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. So
it's very cool.
Now, and so after going, I kind of found out that Newport is all about collaboration and spontaneous performances. Who would you most want to share the stage with, if you could?
No, I mean, number one, it always seems to come up. But to be honest with you, it's Tori Amos. Since I was a kid, it's always been Tori Amos. I don't know why, but that's the number one. I just want to. I don't know. She always does these covers that blow my mind. I don't know if you're a fan, but she does "Smells Like Teen Spirit" from Nirvana on the piano.
Huh.
And it's incredibly beautiful. I saw her do it at Radio City, and it blew me away. She does "I'm on Fire" from Bruce Springsteen, and all these cool songs. And then she's got her own songs. But the way her musical mind works, to me, is such a fascinating thing that I would love to learn whatever I could from her, and sort of just sit down and be like, what? Okay, let's check this out. What else you got? Let's see what's going on here. And I think that those kind of people are they're just great artists. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, I mean, at Newport, the Felice Brothers, I think, are an amazing band. I would love to do something with them. I know the Dietrich guys well, and I like them a lot. But I will literally play with almost anyone.
Well, that's definitely that's a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
So if you could describe Painkillers in one word, what do you think it might be and why?
One word. I would probably say next.
Next.
The next thing. It's the next thing. Because that's how I look at records. Whatever I'm doing currently is sort of, that's what I look at and focus on. Which I find most people don't. You have to sort of encourage your audience to come with you and sort of dictate what it is you're doing next, because they only know what you've done, and they look at that sometimes. But one thing that was interesting is I always wondered, I was speaking to a friend of mine, that people always would say about the Gaslight Anthem or my writing, that they'd be like, well, it's very nostalgic, and they like this 50s stuff, and I kind of was like, what are you talking about? That's not. No, none of these songs take place in the 50s or in these there's one song about an old car on the 59 sound, but it's not. It's just it wasn't a 50s Lincoln. It was just a 93 Lincoln.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not what you're thinking. and it's very funny how we've kind of gotten pegged with this vintage I don't know, greaser thing, and I'm
retro.
Just that's not. Yeah, I don't no. No, I like Nico Case. I don't like Doo-Wop, I'm not into it. I mean, doo-wop's fine if you like doo-wop, but I don't like it, you know. And I've always wondered how that happened. But that's one of those things you have to kind of sort of pull people along with you and let them know where you're going next, you know. And I think on each record, that's the job, is to sort of help people see and bring them along with you where you are at that moment. So that's how I look at records, is at that moment. They're almost like photographs, where you're just looking at that particular time period.
No, totally. So you will not be exploring doo-wop next?
I will not. Okay. No, right. I don't understand that, and I don't understand the nostalgic thing, because I'm always like, because I get references a lot too. They're like, well, you said this in the song, and I'm like, yeah, no, that was like an iPod. That wasn't a record. I was talking about a song playing on an iPod and on a dashboard of a brand new Volkswagen. Like, nothing vintage.
Nothing vintage.
No.
Nothing vintage. Well, I have my exclusive that I can put on the website. Brian Fallon, Not Exploring Doo-Wop.
That's a good one. You should do that. I like that.
Exactly. So, what do you wish? You do a ton of these interviews. I'm sure they must get boring. What do you wish people asked you about more?
I think that I do wish that people asked me more about what my mindset is on the songwriting. Like, what do I really mean? You know, what am I interested in, and what do I talk about? Like, what are the songs, you know, about, or what is the vibe that you're trying to put out? Because sometimes, you know, you do get, like I was just saying, you do get pegged with, I don't like being misunderstood. You know, it's almost like the whole reason that I write songs is to be understood. So, you know, growing up, I just felt super misunderstood. You know, I wasn't like a popular kid at all, and I was into like weird stuff that people didn't understand. I was into like the Smiths and stuff, and like people, but in 1992, that wasn't cool. And like people I can't tell you how many times I got beat up for having like weird hair and like wearing a band shirt, you know, and like be like, oh, okay, I didn't even realize I was offending anyone, you know, like I was just into this music, and people were not cool. I grew up in a really small town when I went to high school. It was like, but some people were cool, and I found a lot of really good, like-minded people there. But I do wish that, you know, people understood more where I was coming from. Maybe that's my fault, though.
No. I mean, like, that's interesting, though, because most artists that I talk to, they hate when you ask that question, because they're like, what I meant is what I meant in the song, and that's it. I don't want to discuss it any further. Like, that's sort of the fear of journalists about asking that.
I could see that. I could see, like, well, people don't want to reveal their private thoughts. True. I think, because it's weird. Like, songwriting's like, imagine like when you were young, if you had a diary or something. Like I had a diary, you know, and if like, what if you did have a friend that just like cracked open your diary and started reading it? Like that's what songwriting is. But kind of to an extent, making a record is like opening up your diary and letting the world read it. So it's nerve-wracking, but it's also, you did it, you know. Like I don't complain about it when people ask, because I know that I'm the one who did it. I went out there and opened the diary. So if I let people read it and they ask questions about it, I think that's okay to do. You know, some people, they don't want people to they don't want to interject their viewpoint in the song, and they want the listener to be able to sort of put their own life in it. So that might be one reason. But I don't know. Some people might be more touchy than me.
Yeah.
I get touchy about some things, but not. I get touchy when people sort of interject things onto me, or project things onto me that I'm not, that are not true. Into. That irritates me really bad. But if to be asked about it and asked to explain it, that would be the ideal.
No.
You know, if everybody was just like, hey, so what? You know, the people say this, but what's your angle? I'd be like, oh, well, this is my angle. You know, I think that's cool.
Well, good. That's always good to know. So this will be my last question for you. Who has your ear? Whose diaries are you listening to right now?
Oh, 100%. I'm listening to a lot of the Felice Brothers, new record, Life in the Dark. I'm listening to Gregory Alan Isakov. He's got a bunch of good records. And I just am constantly listening to him. Nico Case, I'm listening to her a lot. But there's a lot of music right now that I think is doing really interesting things. I mean, like Simply, but I like the new Lady Gaga. I do.
Oh, nice.
Everybody always is like, "Why? You really?" I'm like, "Yes, no, it's good. It's not even like just that I like it, that it's catchy. I think it's interesting and it's smart." And I think that she's talented. Like, she reminds me a lot of Madonna when I was growing up, sort of like kicking around the rules a little bit, but smart. not dumb, really smart songwriting.
Yeah.
You know, and like of a caliber that I don't know if many people can match that. You know, like I think you could compare Madonna to Prince and Bruce Springsteen. I think they're equally as good.
True.
But like that kind of thing, yeah, like that. And I'm trying to see like what's new out there in the singer-songwriter world too. Like just I check iTunes a lot.
Yeah.
Like on Friday now it is, but I check it and see what's new and what's coming out. But yeah, kind of anything. I'll listen to anything.
Well, that is good to know. Well, this has been Brian Fallon. His album is called Painkillers. He is on tour. If he's not playing near you right now, chances are he will be very soon. So thank you very much, Brian, and have a great show.
I appreciate it.